call to order this meeting, or budget workshop, I guess. Tammy, would you read it?
Heavenly Father, we just thank you for this day. And I just thank you for all the blessings that you have provided on our district, Lord. And I just ask that you be with us throughout the rest of the school year. And please watch over every part of our campus. And Lord, tonight just lead and guide, direct us, and help us to do what will be pleasing in your sight. And Lord, what's best for the district. I pray these things in your name. These things I ask. Amen.
Okay, thank you guys for being here tonight. So we have this budget workshop starting at 6. At 6:30 we have a public hearing for our paper report. So I don't think it'll take me 30 minutes to get through this, but if for some reason I'm not finished, I think by 6:30 we need to adjourn this so we can start the public hearing on time. I think that would be the most professional thing to do. So with that being said, in typical fashion with our budget workshop or a budget workshop, we'll review our current budget, our 2021 budget, and then we'll take a glimpse at the 21-22 budget. And so if you turn past the cover page there, you see the first chart there, and it's their 2020-2021 current budget review. Our revenue, if you remember correctly, we approved revenue of $5.6 million, or just over $5.6 million. And to date, we have just over $4.8 million. A little side note with that 4.8, that is showing 92% collection from Grimes County at this point in time. So we still have some more revenue to come in. The camera's not running right now, and they're tied to, I don't think that camera, we can press play on it and you press record it. So if you'll, our new audio system, if you'll press the button on your base, you'll see the piece around the mic lights up, and your button should turn green. That way we have better audio going to our recording for all of our meetings. Sorry about that. So our expenditures, we approved expenditures just over $5.6 million, and year to date we have spent just over $2.7 million. And the system that prints out the report for me said we're about 49% of our expenditures. So considering we're more than halfway through the school year and we're at 49% of our expenditures, that's looking like a good thing. So if we just took the revenue that we have received to this point and the expenditures that we have accrued to this point, we still have just over $2 million in the bank, just for this revenue and expenditure cycle. There's more money in the bank than that, but for this budget cycle. So if you just follow the yellow from the chart down to the next line, all I did was take that 2.7 million and divide it by 7, because that's the number of months we've been in school, or we've been operating under this budget. And you can see we've been spending around $388,000 a month. If you take the remaining, the blue, I guess can we call that blue? Turquoise, whatever color we want to call that, you take that number down to the next line, and all I did was divide that by 5. That's the remaining months we have in this budget cycle, April through August, and you'll see that will come out to be just over $400,000. Now, that looks real good, but something we need to keep in mind, and that's the note I made down there at the bottom. We have a couple of major or specific purchases and projects in the near future that will affect these monthly expenditures significantly. And those things are going to be the purchase of a new special ed bus, which is actually on our agenda tonight, replacing the route bus that was totaled in December. That as well is on tonight's agenda. And then repairing the football stadium parking lot, which we budgeted for that back in August, but the total project has come out to be a little bit more than we've budgeted for. So we'll talk about that as we get further into this report and go from there. So, you know, it sounds like, well, we've got $419,000 we can spend per month, but that's gonna change significantly when you throw the sped bus and the purchase of the bus in there. It's gonna look a whole lot different. You see the next section there, a chart, is accounts to monitor. If you look down the left side, under descriptions, there's some that are in red. I put those in red because those were there in November. So that information, those in red, are nothing new to you. We discussed those in our November budget workshop. There are 4 that are in black, so those were new that have come upon us. The first one falls under function 11. It's through the service center, and that is actually an ID theft program. It was part of HB3 and different things like that. And we budgeted $2,400 for it, and it ended up being $2,500, so we're off by $100 there. But that's a one-time expense, so no more will come from that budget line. Right under that, we have DAEP, which is also under function 11. We budgeted $8,000. We're at $8,200, and I think we have a student there now that may get us, it wouldn't be more than $2,000. Just depends on what the number of days to actually spend over there. And that one's been off because Madisonville, who we contract with for DAEP, their spring break was different than ours. So the students spent some days here in ISS serving out that discipline. So they wouldn't be over there the whole 20 days. So it won't be 2,000, but I don't know. It could be 1,800, 1,900, but it won't be 2,000. And that's just an unusual year for us. And if you go down the next black description, general supplies, that's function 33, and that is nurse. And we typically put about $150 in general supplies for her, and then we have a pandemic. So that's way off there. That's kind of a one-time thing as well. We'll adjust that in the future, but just so you know, that one's over. As a function 33 is not over. It's just that one general supplies line item. And the last one in black is Raptor Security, and that is 52, function 52, which is, I believe, safety and security. And we budgeted $1,050 for that, and the final bill for that this year was $1,140. So you can see it was over by, what's that, $90, something like that. So I just kind of totaled up all those differences for you. What we had budgeted for those items added up to be just over $67,000. The actual expense up to this point for those, and they're all one-time expenditures except for the DAEP. So you shouldn't see those numbers change anymore. That's like the red was in here in November, and it's here again.
And they haven't changed
They
since
haven't
then.
changed, no. So that's a positive there, is those won't go any more over what was budgeted. But it came out to be about a total of $12,000, or about exactly $12,103, and I'll address that again and as we move forward. So that's where we stand on our current budget. Seems to be things are moving right along. Some one-time expenditures that got us there, and we'll make adjustments as we move forward. So the second page is our projected numbers for 21-22. And these numbers in the description there, so you have revenue according to template released on 3/22/21. So that template was released just last week. Mr. Pierce through the service center plugged our numbers into that latest template release. And so you see using property values of just over $400 million and a tax rate of 0.9439. And this would give you our projected M&O revenue for next year. Now, a couple of things with this. He felt comfortable using the $400 million for our property values, and that was like a recommended increase for us from what we use this year and what we should use next year. and that was a 1.8% increase. That's what allowed us to keep this same M&O tax rate that we've used this year. Because again, the purpose of House Bill 3 is to get school budgets stagnant instead of doing a bunch of up and down. And if you remember with the HB 3, we have the tax compression. So at 1.8% increase, we're able to keep that tax rate. I think if the property value is like 2.3 or 2.4, 2.5, somewhere in there, if it's that or more, then we have to compress our tax rate again. So I guess the most important thing out of all of that is just remember this is projected. So, but so we have an idea. Local property taxes would bring in just almost 3.4 million, 3,384,195. Our state funding with that, and that includes both the foundation school plan and available school fund, would be $2,158,504. Our local revenue, we still have it in here as $100,000, which again is a very conservative number. I don't want to stray too far from it because that's where we get some of our cushion we'd like to keep. But anyway, for a projected total revenue of $5,642,699 for next year. And then the next little phrase there lets us know what our INS would do. So if we have those property values and that tax rate, our tax rate would be for INS 0.1800, and that's a little bit less than it is this year. This year it's 0.1812. But that would generate an INS collection of $651,752. And just so you know, our debt services payment for 2022 is $608,000. So we would, with that INS rate, we would meet our required bond payment. Expenditures, the way I did this projection is like I did it the past 2 years. So I took essentially our approved expenditures for 2021, which was 5.6 million. I subtracted what we budgeted for the special ed bus. So that was minus $105,000 there. I subtracted the additional money we put in maintenance supplies for repairing the football stadium parking lot, which was $45,000. Then the next line you see there says plus adjustments to fixed cost items, and for $13,000. So if you remember the bottom of the first page where it was $12,000, just over $12,000, that's where I've accounted for that for next year. I just added $13,000 and we would go through and put it in the appropriate line items. I threw this in there, you see plus 2021 salary increases. Last year we gave step increases and that came out to be about $67,000, I believe. So this is a very fair estimate here on giving step raises to our teachers next year. So about $80,000. I don't think it'll cost that, but again, we're early in the game and we're looking at projections, so I'm going to always err on the cautious side. And then the last page of your packet, you can just glance at it, but I wanted to show where I was getting that from. It says plus new tires for buses, $7,000. And you see there's an email, the very last page from Mr. Callahan. I think he may have sent that to me last week, might have been the week before, but so I did not forget it. I've put it in here as projected expenditures for next school year. So with all that done, that would give us an estimated or projected expenditures line of $5,555,000 and $86. Sorry. So there's a difference between last year's projected expenditures and what we've done here, which would be plus $50,000 to the good.
What ADA is that based on?
I'm sorry, I thought I put that in there. 510.
So we went from 503 to 510?
Yes, sir. I had to, so you know, we've operated the last 2 years with the projected ADA of 503. Back in, I believe it was November, I had to project what our enrollment would be for 21, 22, 22, 23, and I went with 510. Still showing a little bit of growth, but not putting us way out there on the limb.
I know this year was shot. What did we get ADA last year, you remember? It was pretty close to the 500.
It was really close, and I apologize. I actually got that number a couple weeks ago from Miss Marks, and we were, I think it was 513 was our refined ADA. So we're doing okay there. So just a summary of everything here on this page. Had a projected revenue of $5,642,699. Projected expenditures of $5,555,086, and that leaves us just over $87,000 to the plus side. Things that we can take a look at if we need to take a look at. Now the only thing with that, just two things to really keep in mind here. The first one is that we keep hearing stuff about minimum changes to minimum wage. Well, that could affect us with our food services, transportation, custodial. So we might consider leaving ourselves some room for that. I'll get Ms. Tim start working on something that if it increased to what you hear in the media, being $15 an hour, I'll get her to get us those numbers for our employees that would fall in that category. So we're prepared for that. And then the second thing to keep in mind here is that this is a legislative year. And so some of the rules we have to play by, we may not know until after we adopt our budget. So just please keep those two things in mind.
Any updates on the solar farm? I think they've started construction.
They have started construction, yes, sir.
So that should bump up a couple of dates, and we should get that first check in January, February next year.
Yes, sir, I think so. I meant to look at that to see when the timeline of that first check. And that would play a significant part in our budget next year.
Who do you know they sold to? Anybody heard the name?
Oh, they told me the name.
I don't know that I've heard the name, I just know they sold.
There was a notice somewhere.
Yeah,
I don't remember.
So that first payment, yes, sir.
That's where
Might potentially be next year.
Yes, sir. So then you turn to the third page, and then we get into our assigned fund balance that we've been talking about. The first chart, it was $811,139. That's what we put into assigned fund balance when we closed last year's budget out. That changed in December, and that's what that first chart shows you there. It's just the one item, employee retention allotment. Those wonderful Christmas bonuses cost us right around $66,000, so it left us with a balance in employee retention allotment of $9,000. So that's the way it looks at this moment. Now, on tonight's agenda, now we start getting into stuff related to tonight's agenda and so forth. So you see my statement there in between those two charts, just as with approval of gym floor purchase. And again, tonight, the gym floor and the bleachers, that is your decision. That's totally rest on your decision. I've talked to Mr. Jordan, and I know what he's going to recommend. So that's what I've used here in this statement is what I think he will recommend to you tonight. Okay, so that's where those numbers are coming from. That doesn't mean that's who we have to go with or whatever. But the gym floor would be right around $115,000. Bleacher purchase would be right around $97,000 for a total of $212,000. And then it would go into this chart of assigned fund balances. So if you combine them both and just take them out of the $150,000 that we put in for new gym floor, that would move that to zero. The difference between the total cost for floor and bleachers and the amount we budgeted for the floor That difference would be 62,870. So I would see us taking that out of the other capital improvements line, and you can see the totals there for yourself, if that makes sense. Other things that will affect this fund balance in the near future, you see a statement there, Ms. Sajewski, we will pay for reading academies this year. And again, we're getting that service from the service center, and they're definitely going to have districts pay them before they admit their teachers into the academy. So that's going to be paid for this year. It would come out of the, yes, out of the, it would be paid this year, but you remember we put reading academies in our assigned fund balance. So if you look there, if you go up from total, other capital improvements, reading academies, we budgeted $25,000 to cover this expense. So she has a meeting on April 8th at the service center, and we'll find out more specific when we need to pay that bill. But remember, we've planned for a couple of years now. We're going to put this back, so when we do go through reading academies, we already have the money.
Is that $25,000 big enough for that?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
So we don't have an estimate of what that's going to be?
We did. At one point in time, we had Ms. Sajewski and Ms. Pessel going through the blended model, which was much more expensive than, no, they're going through the comprehensive model, which is much more expensive than the blended. So we budgeted for all of that. Well, now Ms. Sajewski and Ms. Pessel are going to do the blended as well, so it's going to be cheaper. So this expense is covered, but I haven't done the math on it, on what it will be.
And the requirement where all those teachers in that new, in the new House bill, that they're going to have to go through that training, or?
Yes, ma'am.
Where do we have that allotted at?
Right here.
In that same?
Yes, ma'am. That's the required training.
Okay, that's the required.
Yes,
So
ma'am.
that's enough for all the teachers that need to go through it?
Yes, sir. Yeah. Well, because I think we started talking about that budget item maybe a year and a half ago. But I just want you to be aware it's coming here. The purchase of a replacement bus would also change this balance. So we received our insurance check. Mr. Callahan will be here tonight to talk about all our bus options. But I think the insurance check was $66,000 or something like that. And the used bus we talked about back in January is no longer available. There's another used bus that is, but even buying that used bus, we'll need to take some money from somewhere else to finish out the purchase. The difference between the price of the bus and the insurance check, I would think that would come out of other capital improvements as well. The complete repair on the football stadium parking lot. Remember, we budgeted $45,000 for that. As we've started getting bids in for that, more work than just fixing the potholes needs to be done. We need to fix the potholes, but then we need to reseal the parking lot, so we're not fixing potholes every other year or every year. And then striping, of course, if we're going to reseal the parking lot. Some of the bids we've gotten on that are around $82,000. So you can see there's a possible $37,000 difference there in that project. Again, out of other capital improvements. And then Mr. Callahan is waiting for a quote. There's some work he'd like to have done to the lift station over the summer when there's almost zero use, so they can get in and do the things they need to do. And he's expecting that to be around $5,000. But then we would take that out of the sewage lift station assigned fund balance of $250,000. Again, that would come to the board for, regardless of it only being $5,000, since it's coming out of fund balance, we would need your approval on that. So that might be an agenda item in April or May, whenever we get, once we get that bid. So, wow, 4 minutes to spare. I hope that all made sense. I feel like we're in a good place again, like we have been the last couple of years. I think the one takeaway from this is we had that $811,139 we put in to assign fund balance, and we start taking care of some of the things that need to be taken care of. It goes real quick.
Mr. Jordan spinning it fast.
Mr. Jordan spinning it fast. I wasn't going to throw him under the bus.
Well, thank you.
So,
I'm smiling under here.
Can I ask one
I'm
question?
smiling under
yes,
here.
sir. Please do.
I know that you are, on your worksheet, you've got that we're basically keeping the same expenditures and subtracting some out. Just because I haven't seen them, can you send the detailed line item for me? I'm sure if anybody else wants to see them, they probably already seen it. But.
Consider it done.
Thank you.
And then the parking lot deal?
Yes, ma'am.
Is there any leaks underneath there?
No, ma'am.
Because I know that hole always has water in it, just about.
No,
There's no plumbing
So
under the
there's no-
parking lot.
there's no plumbing there. It's just where, if you'll notice when you first come in the entrance, the water from the front parking lot along 244, the visitor side, it basically channels through that little, I guess it's just a channel over, and then it all runs down there, and then it goes back to the back of the parking lot. So it's just the amount of traffic that's there when the water's there. And we typically with asphalt, you want to seal about every 5 years to keep it in pristine shape, to keep water, because once water, it starts cracking, or they call it alligatoring, and the water seeps down to the base and destroys the base, and then loosens the asphalt. And typically we should have really resealed 5 years ago. We didn't, so we're seeing those issues now. But no plumbing issues right there. It's just where it drains.
We were talking about right outside the field house, not the field house, whatever you call it.
Yes, and see those gutters
Yes,
from the
yes.
gutters from that building
Right.
also run down there
That's
as
what I
well.
was, okay. As long as no plumbing, so.
I'll move to adjourn.
Second.
Second by Scott. Those in favor, raise your hand. Motion carries.